what was the more efficient way and ready to go way to produce random numbers. So we can actually go to vendors and say, we have this product that you can use for your quantum cybersecurity, and say, I thought this was actually way more expensive.
Welcome to The Growth Switch, the podcast where we dive into the strategies, struggles, and breakthroughs of bold business leaders. I'm your host, Jules Fox, growth strategist and lead content creator at Aries Media. I'm here to uncover how today's top brands are scaling, overcoming challenges, and unlocking sustainable success. Now, for those of you just tuning in, Aries Media helps grow successful brands like yours with comprehensive hands-on support for sales, business development, and performance marketing. Go ahead and drop growth into the comments if you want to learn how to do that. Today, we are joined by Dr. Jose Coello. He's the Chief Scientific Officer at CryptaLabs, and he is one of the world's leading minds in quantum-safe cryptography. He pioneers the use of quantum random number generators to future-proof our digital security. Super excited to pick his brain. Jose, welcome to the podcast.
Well, Jules, Fox, thanks very much for inviting me here. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for being here. So I want to know, how does somebody get into cryptography? How did this become a passion of yours to where you wanted to do this as a job?
Well, it's a long sort of journey, so it's not a straightforward answer to go to cryptography. So during my times in high school and physics days, I would try to do like some codes with friends and activities in which you try to say information what the teacher will not know what you're talking about. Yeah. So that kind of things. Also, I really enjoy doing math and physics. I have like jiggling around all these kind of topics, and then I did a degree in physics, and suddenly quantum computing started kicking in. What we do say is they can break our encryption. All our encryption that we use today, the internet can be broken by a quantum computer. So we need a new kind of encryption. I did quantum physics and say, okay, this sounds like a very interesting potential journey if I join my knowledge in quantum mechanics and then my knowledge in crypto, and then try to move forward this new kind of quantum cryptography.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure that a lot of people could benefit from this, but might not have deep expertise like you do in what it is. So perhaps a little bit more simply, you could break down what are quantum random numbers and how are they helpful?
Yes. So basically, a computer is a deterministic machine. So when you ask for randomness, it will not produce any randomness. So it will give you what is called a pseudo-random number. And then it will look like it's random number coming out of the computer, but it's actually not. So you need some physical device that actually produce some randomness. So people who can think of a coin flipping or this, or you roll dice, or you do a coin flipping, and then you get some sort of potential randomness. Actually, it's not random, but let's not go too much deep into that. So you as a person, roll me some dice, and then you have that as an input. But for a computer, for a key, you will need to have hundreds and hundreds of numbers. You're not going to roll dice all the time looking for take a picture and then send it to a computer. So that's not an efficient way to work out. Then computers started to gather in like some circuitry that produces some chaotic events, and that's how current computers get input in some operating system. Other operating systems like the typing that you do in the keyboard, the movement of the mouse that gets into input in an entropy pool, let's call, and then it gets random numbers. These two systems are very, very slow. So you need a new way. Suddenly people realize that quantum mechanics is inherently random phenomena. So you cannot predict, no matter how much knowledge you have of the state, it's totally unpredictable. So if you harvest randomness from quantum phenomena, then you have the ultimate generation of random numbers. So that's what is called quantum random numbers, using quantum mechanics to produce events that are undeterministic and therefore produce randomness.
Fantastic. So at CryptaLabs, how does that become productized? How is that beneficial to companies that you work with?
So basically, we have several verticals or companies that are working with us. And their main interest is to fall into sections. One, I would say, is quantum cybersecurity, and the other is numerical simulation. So in quantum cybersecurity or quantum safe cybersecurity, you need random numbers to generate the key. So for quantum key distribution systems, you need an entropy source. A lot of people building key systems, they theorize, we have a quantum random number, but they don't have an actual physical device. Sometimes they're using SD cards with random numbers fill in as an input for their system, but that's not a way to do cybersecurity. So you need an actual physical device that is random. So at CryptaLabs, we were searching what was the more efficient way and ready to go way to produce random numbers. And we found off-the-shelf components that achieve those targets using a way that are not expected to be used for. So we basically studied the market of what was out there and say, if we combine these elements that are in the market that they were not expecting to be used in that way, we can actually produce quantum numbers. But the good thing is that they're producing the millions, so our cost is way lower. So we can actually go to vendors and say, we have this product that you can use for your quantum security, and say, I thought this was actually way more expensive. With your product, actually, I can actually fit it in, because just actually last week I was speaking with a quantum teacher from Germany, and they say it's not even in our budget to consider quantum numbers. And then I put my card in front of him, say, this is our device, this is how much it costs, and say, okay, that sounds like this is our budget now, and then we're very interested in potentially using it. So
yeah. So, I think that a lot of people simply don't know how cost effective this could be, because what would, if somebody says they don't have the budget for security, what could happen? How much could they stand to lose if they don't have good security in place?
Well, their market research output that can be in the billions for large corporations that do not have proper security, to all the way to bust your small business if you don't have the security, because if your data is leaked and you have bad security, so it can be crucial for any sort of company to be quantum safe in the near term.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is such a massive potential loss. I don't think anybody could, look me straight in the face and tell me that they just didn't have the budget to protect against losing their entire company. That seems ridiculous. But a cost-effective solution. Now, how did this change? I know you guys went through a big shakeup. How did COVID affect, the pandemic, the way people are marketing, the way that they need security? How did that affect the company Rebirth? And as far as like commercial tracking, what you guys were able to do for people?
Yes. Before the COVID, we were in an office space with lab space, and we were doing sort of research there and creating the product there. Mm-hmm. And then we were about to end our contract with the office in March 2020, almost when COVID was starting to create the problems. And then we had a meeting and say we should go online, forget about get a new office and start working online. So we decided to do that. And then we started to say, okay, we don't have a lab anymore. Can we go and get off-the-shelf components and see if we can integrate them in our house, and then start creating a prototype of the product, but with off-the-shelf components instead of the previous more expensive and more complex product that we were using before. Mm-hmm. So that actually helped us to leapfrog ourselves in several years of development, because we were actually thinking of creating all these with much greater timelines and scaling budget. What we were actually achieving in actually shorter amount of time, with the effectiveness of trying to minimize the amount of resources that you have because you're working at home and no longer in the lab that we have in the office space. Mm-hmm. So that allows us to completely change the components, reduce the cost 10x of the components that we needed for producing the quantum entropy, and then allow the miniaturizations even further of our product. So we reduce cost, increase robustness, and then reduce the size. They work it out quite well, that in product terms.
Yeah. So when you're figuring out who is the best fit for your product, when they're trying to figure out if you're the best company to serve their need, what's probably the most critical thing that company owners need to know about what they should be doing now to protect themselves that you guys are able to do? Because a lot of times we don't know what we don't know. What don't they know that you can fill them in on right now?
So that's a broad question. So I will try to separate in parts. So one is trust. So one of the things that large company or any company that works in cybersecurity, they need to trust you. That CryptaLabs is not a very well-known company. It's a startup. So you have not the name of a large corporation like, I don't know, Microsoft or any of the big ones. How we enter that? So we started to showcase the people that has integrated our solution into the services. Say, okay, we have this very large Japanese company that is actually using our product for the QKD systems. We have a US company that is producing firewalls in large volumes. They tested 19 companies and they chosen us to basically integrate our solution into the firewalls. So they started to be success in us integrating with other companies that had tested a lot of potential quantum number generators. So being chosen by companies that have tested several of them, some of them has even built their own quantum numbers, and they're using ours because they say ours is not a solution that is so efficient and effective like yours, easy to integrate. So that gives us a good feedback and say why they're choosing us. That's sort of the reasons why people are working in to be safe against or quantum safe. We already started to look for us as a provider of the quantum number generators. And now why they're choosing to have quantum number generators is because they realize that even if you move to post-quantum algorithms, the entropy can be attacked by a quantum computer. People don't realize usually that phenomena, that you have certain potential weakness with the quantum computer to your entropy that generates the keys. So even if you have a post-quantum algorithm, if you don't have a quantum number or a random number that cannot be attacked by a quantum computer, then you are still in sort of danger. Providing a solution that is efficient and low cost help them to take the decision easier in their meeting. Say, okay, now we have someone that can provide us with a nice solution that can be integrated not only in servers but also in the edge because of the price point, and remove us the worrisome that maybe a quantum computer can attack entropy. So that's sort of the way people are now looking to us.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Now, a lot of companies want to know, they want to look at the metrics. They want to be able to measure something. And I think that you're able to measure the quantumness and entropy of random numbers, right? So this might sound like a crazy question, but how do you actually quantify randomness?
Okay, that's extremely hard question. So our mathematician, our team that she worked before in data science says analysis of random numbers is one of the hardest things you have ever done because it's something that is extremely hard to statistically analyze if something is random or not. So for that, we were part of Assurance of Quantum Random Numbers, a project led by the National Physics Laboratory in the UK and the universities, York and Kent. So the idea is that they will take apart all the components of our quantum random number, measure our light source, measure our sensor, check that what we're measuring is quantum origin, and then we have that sort of validation from the instrument standards of the UK with the National Physics Laboratory. So that validates that what we were measuring in the device will come from quantum origin. So this worked. And then the statistics were evaluated by the people at the University of Kent. So they have extremely renowned professor Julio Hernandez that is an expert in randomness, and he has done tests of certification for randomness as well. And he evaluated our statistical test and verified that according to what most random can be, our device behaves as it should be. So, but it's impossible to have any sequence verified that is actually random or not. But you have to fail the test statistically as expected.
Yes, that makes sense. And so how do you commercialize this? How do you take that and turn this into like a real world practical thing that sort of the layperson could understand? Because I think a lot of people, this is maybe beyond their intellect and they don't need to understand it. What they do need to know is that it works, right?
Yes. So we have interact with different kind of clients. So clients that want to know exactly how it's going, what is producing, and all the physics behind it. And other vendors that say, we trust because you're following the standards and we just need to know that it's working. So we have quite a broad spectrum of clients. So basically, for the first ones, we have produced white papers and research that has been validated by third-party people on how our device work. And then once they understand, they think, okay, that's very good. And then they start to integrate, and then after a while, they just keep using it for even integration in the wider range of products that they're building. The other clients, they have seen that we're already partnership with large companies that we have validated by independents like the National Physics Laboratory, and they already, because of that, they trust that our device is producing random numbers. So we have this sort of two extremes and almost anything in between with our vendors. The way usually we have been interacting with them is either they approach us directly through our website, and then suddenly someone from US or Europe or Asia approach us and say, we're very interested. Can we get some units and test it? And others has been like, we have a meet in person. They suddenly, like the people we met last week, say, we didn't know that this solution actually was this price point. And now we can actually think of integrating it. So we have to be in the events to meet people and also providing services online. Like they can see us. Like this kind of podcast will allow us to increase the audience and see more people start to understand, there are quantum numbers. What are those and why I need them?
Yeah, you could be the absolute best at what you do and have a fantastic product out there. But at the end of the day, it's really all about getting more people to see your company, get visibility, and then make an educated decision from there. An educated decision also is not just like, well, we can't afford it. This is out of our price range, but like, oh, wow, this is surprisingly affordable. I think we could afford a little bit more security. So tell me, if you're a brilliant mind, you definitely have your niche expertise, but if you were to try to grow the company over the next few years, if you were trying to 5x or 10x the growth, how would you reach more people? Like, how would you get yourself out to the masses to be able to provide more critical protection for these companies?
So I think one of the things that would be very relevant is to get a sales team in the company. And I start explaining how the product is, why people will need this, and search for who are these people and start producing the sales. So actually, that would be the first thing I would do is get the sales team and start knocking the doors, explain what we're doing, visiting people, visiting events, and then tell them this solution exists, it's already here, it's been validated, you can start getting it integrated in your quantum safe or solutions.
Yeah.
That would be the first step.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, it's going to be a multi-step process and there'd be a whole lot involved,
Yes.
No easy answer to that question. So how can people best connect with you? If they're listening to the podcast, if they're watching the podcast, those links will be down below in the show notes. How could they best interact with you?
So through our website, cryptalabs.com, they can contact us. They just fill a little form there. So we are interested in doing this. So we can say, okay, this fits with us. Then we can carry on. They can find me on LinkedIn if they're happy to do so and contact me directly there. They just search for my name and CryptaLabs. They will find me. Happy to interact basically with my email, jose@cryptalabs.com. They can also contact me there.
Fantastic. And again, all of that information is going to be down below. Anything else that you want to add? Any last piece of advice that you would love to give to business owners of why they should get involved right now? Take action right now?
One of the critical things that we have seen is people think, quantum computing is going to be 5-10 years away. But the transition to a quantum computer has to be done already yesterday. So the US is mandatory that you have to move to quantum safe crypto by 2030. That will take a lot of time to actually move all your cybersecurity to a new standards, how it does work, how many lines of code I am using previous legacy cybersecurity that I will need to move. So you have to start moving now to actually be ready for one. It's mandatory, independently if there's going to be a quantum computer or not, that you move to a quantum safe cybersecurity.
Yeah, absolutely. So, whether or not you're being mandated to do this, now is the best time to take action.
Yes.
Jose, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your expertise on the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jules. Yeah. Very nice meeting you. Have a good one.